Right, we're live. Okay, hi everyone. We're going to start the webinar quite soon, and we're just seeing some people register and coming in from all around the world. Steve from Christchurch and Tracy from Christchurch. One of Graham's clients or friends from Glenn from Idaho, is it? You know Glenn from Idaho, Graham?
Yep, I do, and Glenn from Canada as well.
Yep, excellent. And
people
Graham
everywhere.
Another Graham in from Auckland, and Sarah from Taupu, Tommy from Christchurch. Oh, we've got some coming in from all around the world. This is wonderful. Jerry Brown from Christchurch. Any other names you recognise there, Graham?
Not quite off the top of my head, but there's bound to be a few that Jackie, Steve. No.
Well, we're welcoming everyone in, and we'll be underway in about 2 minutes. So keep signing in so we can see the audience growing bit by bit. And we will be telling you a few things at the start of the webinar, how it's going to work, and at the end of it. But just a reminder that if you can't stay the whole hour or so with us, there will be a recording, and that will be distributed by email link at the end of the webinar or later today. So you will be able to come back and watch the webinar at your leisure. Someone in from Deborah in from Gisborne. Welcome, Deborah. Good to see you've joined us. And Robin from Auckland. Everyone's queuing up now. Wellington. Just about got the whole country covered, Graham.
Pretty well.
And
someone from Beth from Boston and USA. Welcome, Beth.
Well, Beth, what time of the day is it over there? Just put a quick reply in the chat session there. Beth, what time is it in Boston right now? What time of day is it? Elwyn from Wellington, welcome, Mel. And Margaret from Christchurch, welcome, Margaret. And Beth and so on.
Says it's wicked early, but nearly 6 o'clock.
Oh, must about be dinner time.
Actually, no, it's 6 o'clock in the evening, Wednesday. So there you go. It's yesterday.
Time travel. Well done.
Time travel.
We're quite happy sitting here with Thursday, but it is a bit chilly, even though it's October and it will be coming into the warmer part of spring. We've had a chilly day right up and down the country here. Beth. Beth from always ahead of us. Someone's saying we're always ahead of the USA.
There you go.
Thank you. I think that's a compliment.
Look at that gorgeous sunny day down in Greymouth. Isn't that tremendous?
Oh, it often is sunny on the west coast there. You go across the other side of the island and it's 15 degrees in Christchurch. You get across there and it's 20 degrees and it's almost subtropical.
Yeah, we've got Graham Nelson here. He's actually from Sydney, Australia.
What's it like over there at the moment?
Steve wants to know how do you record this webinar. So don't worry, Steve. We are recording it for you and we'll give you a copy shortly. Yes,
the link will be sent out after the email, after the webinar. Probably about what time on it? Does it go out? 2 hours afterwards. A couple of hours afterwards when it's all processed.
Okay.
All right. I think we're just about ready to go.
Yeah.
And here we go. So welcome everyone to another Brainstorm webinar. Excuse me a moment. And today's webinar is presented by one of our very creative brainstormers, Graham McGregor, who's sharing the screen with me at the moment. Now, I've worked with Graham for some 20 years, and he never ceases to amaze me with his almost endless tips and hints about how to attract attention and bring customers to your business by spending just a few dollars, and in many cases, spending nothing at all. And today, what you walk away with is dozens of really useful ideas that you can put into action immediately. So get a writing pad and jot things down as Graham goes through this webinar. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping about this webinar. As we said just a couple of moments ago, it will be recorded and we will send you an email link to all the registrants later today so you can watch a replay at your leisure. So you can sit up in bed, watch it on your laptop or later on during your lunch hour, whatever. You can also ask Graham questions and he will attempt to answer as many as possible at the end of this presentation. So what he doesn't answer today, we will follow up with an email in the next couple of days and cover all those questions. So to ask a question, just scroll down. If you just scroll down on your mouse now, just below the screen, you'll see an area or a panel to type in your questions. So so just type your questions in there as the webinar goes through. And next to the question panel, you'll see an area called Offers. Here you'll find a link to Graham's Plan B sales solution. Some of you have already got it, but to many of you, it'll be a brand new booklet. It costs, it's absolutely free, but it contains 133 pages. This is what it looks like, 133 pages of clever low-cost ideas that you can start using immediately. I've been through it in detail, and there's just some wonderful stuff in there. You'll absolutely love it. And so we'll send a link out to that, or how to get it, at the end of the webinar. Now, Graham has been actively involved in sales and marketing for some 40 years. He was a weekly marketing writer for the Herald in Auckland for some 7 years, and he's currently a weekly marketing writer for Stuff. So he really knows his stuff. So welcome, Graham. Your audience is waiting.
Right, let's get underway with the first slide then. We're going to be talking about how to turn massive changes into massive profits. And if we look at the next slide, you realize that massive changes for all of us, they happen all the time. It could be something like COVID has happened to most of us in business this year. It's affected a lot of us in terms of customers and what's happened in the marketplace. A few years ago, Jamie, what happened down in Christchurch in your business?
We had one of these.
Absolutely. You had a major earthquake that destroyed tens of thousands of homes, thousands of businesses. That was massive change. Massive changes could be a big competitor coming in, someone coming in with new technology that makes what you do obsolete. The key of change, it happens all the time. It happened last year, happens this year, it'll happen next year. The key is to learn how to turn this change into massive profits, a bit like turning lemons into lemonade. So let's look at how we can do that. Next slide. When massive change happens of any sort, the very first thing I recommend you do is stay positive, confident, optimistic, and enthusiastic. And there's two simple things you can do here. The first thing I highly recommend you do is limit your daily media exposure to about 15 to 20 minutes. That could be on the radio, the TV, the newspaper, online or physical. Don't read more than about 15, 20 minutes or listen to 15, 20 minutes of the stuff, because generally it's pretty negative. They're talking about all the doom and gloom, all the terrible things that are going on in the world, the number of people right now infected with COVID, the number of people dying, the number of people out of work. You don't need all that. Just spend 15 to 20 minutes, stay current so you know what's happening, what might be affecting your business, and then spend at least 15 to 30 minutes a day or 20 to 30 minutes a day exposing yourself to something positive. Positive ideas, good information, good news. For example, there's two great sources of this. I write for an organization called Stuff, which is www.stuff.co.nz. It's actually the largest online media site in the country. And they have a special section in their site called Prosper, a great name. And this is a site specifically for small businesses where they have all sorts of interesting business success stories, business advice, business tips, marketing tips, and so forth. And it's all free. So there's the address on screen there, where to go for that. There's also a really interesting organization called Future Crunch. The website address is on the screen there. They are a group of scientists and researchers based in Australia, and they share all sorts of really interesting things that are happening all around the world that are really positive, that don't generally make the news at all. For example, I was just reading some of the things they were talking about a few days ago. There's some artificial intelligence available right now, Jamie. You may not have heard about it, but it analyzes your voice. It's a medical technology. It's actually working right now, and it can actually determine if you have a whole bunch of medical conditions or diseases just by analyzing your voice. Apparently, it's got a 98% success rate picking up things like Parkinson's. And there's all sorts of really interesting, positive things happening all around the world. I think you and I were chatting a couple of days ago. In Ethiopia last year, they had a one-day tree planting campaign, if you like. And in one day in that country, in Ethiopia, they planted 1 million trees in one day. Imagine that. And there's Literally thousands of really interesting things happening all around the world. Good news, if you like, that you don't normally see in the media. And places like Future Crunch are a great way to expose yourself to stuff like that. So limit your media exposure, but then do something that's positive and good and helpful and uplifting every day as well. Now, if you stay positive, you can then start to handle all the things that are going on in your world. And let's get into some how-to strategies right now. How do you turn massive sales into massive profits? Well, you start off by asking two really simple questions. Question one, what problems can we solve using our existing resources? And question number two, where are the opportunities in these changes? Let's go to the next slide and give you a couple of examples of these questions in real life action. First example is a company called Snap Car Rentals here in New Zealand. When we had our first major lockdown earlier in the year, basically about 95% of the businesses in the country had to close, and we all had to stay at home and be there for 5 or 6 or 7 weeks while they sorted out what was going on. Now, so suddenly Snap Car Rentals had 1,000 rental cars sitting in their yard earning no money. They had dozens and dozens of staff. Again, no work to do. They had to pay, and they had no customers. All the borders were closed. Everyone's gone. So what did they do? Well, they looked at the resources they already had. They had rental cars. They had actually had an online booking system already in place, and they had all their staff who could actually drive. So what problems could they solve using these existing resources? Well, you know what they discovered? There was a major problem happening in that first lockdown here in New Zealand. There are 2 major supermarket chains here in New Zealand, and suddenly they couldn't handle all the online grocery shopping orders. They were just swamped. If you enter either one of these 2 major grocery chains in New Zealand to place an online order, you couldn't get groceries or any type of online service for a week or 2 or 3 in advance. Just totally booked out. So what the Snap Car Rentals did, they contacted a couple of local, slightly smaller upmarket grocery chains and said, look, how about we offer an online grocery delivery service for your grocery store? We've got the staff and the cars, we've got the online booking system. Within 2 weeks, they had this set up, and suddenly they had thousands and thousands of customers that took advantage of their grocery online order system. Because what they could do, Jamie, for I think $19, they could give you grocery deliveries within 24 hours. And for something like $29, they could give you grocery deliveries within 3 hours. At a time when the 2 major competitors were booked out weeks and weeks and weeks and a half in advance. So the thing is there, look at what you've got already in terms of resources on hand. And what can you use these resources? What problems can you solve with them? Let me look at opportunities. Now, there's an interesting bakery in Finland that I won't attempt to pronounce. It's got quite an interesting name, as you can see there. Anyway, this bakery did a lot of baking of expensive cakes, expensive confectionery, mainly for things like weddings, funerals, celebrations of all sorts. Again, when COVID hit over in Finland, everyone was locked down, social distancing. Their business dried up. They had about 7 staff. All their orders were cancelled because there were no functions happening. So where was the opportunity in that? We might recall, Jamie, that back when the first COVID thing happened all around the world, people started panic buying. And what was one of the items that a lot of people panic bought, if you like? We saw this on the nightly TV news. People, for some reason, were buying rolls and rolls and rolls of toilet paper. So one of the bakers in this bakery had an interesting idea. They said, you know what? People are pretty concerned and pretty scared about COVID at the moment. Hey, they're all panic buying toilet rolls for some reason. Why don't we make a cake, just for fun, that looks like a roll of toilet paper? And on the screen there where it says support your local, they're not actually rolls of toilet paper there. Those are actually really tasty cakes. So anyway, this bakery, just for a bit of fun, made 5 cakes, put them on the counter, and just to see what would happen, to cheer people up. Well, those 5 cakes went in a few minutes. People came along, saw them, bought them, and then something really interesting happened. The people that bought the cakes started posting pictures of them and their toilet roll cake on Instagram, on Facebook, and it went viral. And suddenly everyone wanted one of these toilet roll cakes. Hundreds and hundreds of people came into the store ordering toilet roll cakes, if you like. They actually had to hire 2 more full-time staff to keep up with the demand. So no matter what's going on in the world right now in terms of massive changes, there's always opportunities. In fact, I believe these toilet roll cakes are now being made all around the world by various people. Isn't that interesting? Let's look at the next screen. One of the really important things about handling massive change is you've got to take fast action. Here's a great example. I heard from one of my business colleagues in the States a few months ago, again, when first COVID happened and there's massive lockdowns all around the place. He found that he couldn't go to the local gym to do his regular workout with a personal trainer. Just, again, gyms were banned. You had to stay at home. You couldn't go. So obviously the personal trainers couldn't do one-on-one personal training. So he suggested to his personal trainer, hey, why don't we use Zoom? I'll show you how to set it up to give me a personal training session via Zoom. Yeah, it's probably better than not doing anything at all. So anyway, he set it up for this personal trainer. The personal trainer gave him a training session, which is great. And 3 days later, my colleague in the States came back and did another Zoom training session with his personal trainer. And as he did that, he asked the question, by the way, have you got any of your other clients using Zoom for personal training? He said, yeah, I've got basically all of them. I've got, I think, something like 35 out of 36 clients now using Zoom to have me do personal training for them. And they love it. It's really convenient. They don't have to go to the gym. And he's actually charging exactly the same amount of money that he was charging before. And he took really fast action within 3 days. The interesting thing was this personal trainer had told his other personal trainer mates at the gym they should be doing the same thing that he was doing. And you know what they told him? Well, it's a bit hard, a bit complicated, Zoom. Let's just wait and see what happens, and hopefully things will go back to normal. The snag with that approach, of course, is pretty obvious. Things may never go back to normal. And while you're waiting for things to go back to normal, you're not making any money. So what you've got to really do, and this is really important with anything you get on this webinar or any useful ideas that you see anywhere, take fast action. Get into action quickly. Okay, let's look at the next slide. This is a really interesting concept here. How do you grow your sales by 500% when you have a lot of competitors? Well, I want to give you a very interesting example here of what's possible by just making a tiny change in how you do business. Many years ago, back in the 1980s, here in my hometown, Auckland, you used to be able to buy milk and yogurt and so forth from your local milkman. They would come around and deliver milk to your home. In fact, milkmen had a monopoly on milk. There were only 2 places you could buy milk and cream and yogurt. They were from your milkman or your local dairy. The supermarkets at that point in New Zealand were not allowed to sell milk, yogurt, anything like that. And then the law changed, and suddenly supermarkets could now sell legally milk, dairy products, cream, and so forth. Wow, that had a huge impact on the incomes of basically every milkman in the country. Their sales plummeted because now people were buying their milk from the supermarket while they're picking up their normal groceries. Massive change, in other words. So, what did one milkman do? Well, most of his competitors were going broke or going out of business. He did something really interesting. In fact, this person actually bought a milk round just after this massive change happened. And the very first thing this milkman did, he went around with a notebook in his hand and he personally knocked on the door of every single house in his milk round area. He introduced himself and said, hi Jamie, hi Graham, it's Fred the milkman here. Here's my price list of all my milk products. Here's where you buy milk tokens from. And by the way, I offer a bit of extra service here. If you buy milk or milk products from me, where would you like them delivered? To your front door, your back door, or your letterbox. There's no extra charge. It's all part of the service. Well, if you lived up or down a long drive, it was pretty handy to have your milk delivered right to your front door, rather than you having to go down to your drive, to your letterbox to get it. So whatever you wanted, he did. While he was there for that very first visit, he also took a note of your phone number. He had your name, had your phone number, where you wanted it delivered. Now, a couple of months later, he had a problem with his milk truck. It's going to be out of action for 2 or 3 hours with a mechanical issue. So what did they do? Well, he got his family involved. There are about 4 of them in total. They borrowed all the neighbors' phones, because this is well before days of no internet, no email, no mobile phones at this stage. This is back in the 1980s. They rang up every single customer on that milk run and said, by the way, look, Milkman here, want to let you know we're running about 2 to 3 hours late tonight with our milk deliveries. We are coming. We've got a mechanical problem with the truck. We'll be there soon. In other words, they let their customers know what was going on. And you know what? Those 2 simple things made that milkman famous. People were telling their friends, have you heard about my milkman? He delivers milk right to my front door or my back door, whatever's more convenient. Hey, the other day their truck broke down. They rang me up. And you know what? He increased his sales by 500% in 6 months just by doing that. And what really amazes me, he's selling a commodity product, a bottle of milk. You can buy the identical bottle of milk from all sorts of other places. Identical milk, identical price. But by offering something, a little bit of extra unexpected service, he grew his sales 500% in 6 months. So what can you do that's a little bit unexpected in the way of extra service that might grow your sales as well? Next slide. How do you turn customers into delighted raving fans for your business? Well, one of the keys here is you want to use what we call Lagniappe. It's not spelt that way as you can see on the screen, but it's pronounced Lagniappe. It just means something a little bit extra. Let me give you an example on the next screen. There's an electrical contracting firm, and they train their electricians to do something very simple. Whenever they go and do an electrical job at any person's home, the electrician looks around to find one simple little thing that he can do in 3 or 4 minutes that would be of benefit to the customer, and he does it at no charge. For example, it could be something as simple as oiling a squeaky door hinge. You notice the front door squeaks, so he quickly sprays it with a bit of oil so it doesn't squeak anymore. Maybe you notice that the gutter over the front door is a bit overgrown, a few weeds. He gets his ladder out, hops up for 2 minutes, cleans the gutter. Maybe there's a bush on the way on the drive coming in that's a bit inconvenient. It's kind of catching on people's clothes as they walk by. Gets out some secateurs, cuts off a couple of bits of that bush. And what they then do on each job, they list the extra thing they had done. In this case, as you can see on that screen, there's the invoice, mileage charge, parts, labor, fixed squeaky door hinge, no charge, $0. And you know what? Customers absolutely love this extra free service, particularly as it's mentioned on the invoice. They tell all their friends about it. They tell all their workmates. They get a ton of referrals, and they get a ton of extra repeat sales at the same time. You know what? It takes 2 or 3 minutes on each job that they do. Very, very simple. Great example of Lagniappe. Let's go to the next screen. A few years ago, my mother decided she wanted to sell her home, move into a retirement village. So I recommended a very good local real estate company called Harvey's Real Estate Te Atatu. They did a fantastic job, got a great price, minimum stress. My mother was very happy. But what was really interesting to me was that a few days or a few weeks after the sale went through and the new owners moved into my mum's home, went unconditional, if you like, and settled, the real estate company, or the owner of the real estate company, sent me a little parcel in the mail. It was actually 2 $100 gold class movie tickets, valid for 1 year, along with a delightful little note that says, Graham, thank you very much for referring your mum to our business recently. We enjoyed looking after her and helping her move and sell her home. Thanks very much for the referral. Here's a couple of gold class movie tickets with my compliments. You know what? That was quite a few years ago now. And here I am telling you about it today. And by the way, it's no coincidence. This particular real estate company is one of the most successful real estate companies in the country. Next slide.
Graham, excuse me, Graham, I'll just interrupt there for a moment.
Fine.
Just a reminder to everyone who's come in for the webinar. This webinar, we're getting a few questions. This webinar is being recorded. So if you have to duck away, you will get a link to the recording that you can watch at your leisure after the webinar in a couple of hours' time. And secondly, Graham is here to also answer questions at the end of the webinar. So please just scroll down and enter your questions. Start entering those questions now, so we've got a number to pass on to Graham in the second half or towards the end of Graham's presentation here. So thanks, Graham. Sorry to interrupt.
That's great. Good to know. Okay. Now, one of the things a lot of people say to me in marketing, they say, Graham, I don't have a lot of money. Okay? I don't have a lot of money, so I can't do well in business. Well, I want to tell you right now and give you a good example. Lack of money or having no money, it's really the problem in business. What really is the problem for most of us, if we're having a problem, it's a lack of good ideas. Let me give an example. I got an email recently, in fact, in the last 6 weeks, from a young lady in Florida called Meg Ola. And she told me, she said, Graham, I was made redundant from my job. I lost my job. I had $12 to my name. I think Meg is in her early 20s from memory. So I decided that I was going to go and spend that $12 at a local craft shop. And I made up a couple of necklaces. I got some chains from the craft shop for $12. I got a couple of little necklace things that had a word printed on that necklace already. So a word like love or courage or confidence, something like that. So I spent $12. And I figured that if I can make up a couple of necklaces with some inspiring words, what I could do is I could actually help people, because a lot of people are feeling really scared and unhappy and uncertain at the moment with what's going on in the world, particularly with COVID. So she came up with a name for these necklaces. She decided to call them the Grow and Give necklaces. And here's what she decided to do. She said, look, pick a word that you need to help you do a bit better in life right now. So let's say right now you need the word courage. You're a bit scared, you're a bit afraid of what's going on. So you got the word courage, put it on a necklace and just wear it around your neck for a couple of weeks until you think, okay, I'm feeling a bit more positive, got a bit more confidence, a bit more courage in my life. Then what you do is you pass that necklace on to someone that you know that you think might benefit from that particular word. So that's where the give and grow concept came along. Anyway, she made something like a dozen necklaces up to start with, told a couple of her friends on Facebook what she was doing, and they all decided to buy a necklace. She thought, this is good. Went down, bought a few more supplies, made a few more necklaces. Then she made a little TikTok video. I think it was about 45 seconds long, explaining what she was doing. 70,000 people watched her 45-second TikTok video. The orders poured in. People loved her order, loved what she was doing. In fact, quite a few of them said, look, we love what you're doing. Can we have a custom word made for a necklace, please, rather than the ones that you're selling? She said, that's a good idea. Back to the craft shop, bought a little hammer, a little engraving hammer, and a little couple of extra tools so she can make words herself with the necklaces. And Jamie, what actually happened with this lady, she told me in her email, this is her first business, by the way, in her whole life. She's never been in business before. Her necklaces sell somewhere between $25 and $35 each online. In her first 50 days, she made over 1,100 sales. 1,100 sales, starting with $12. And that converted to over $33,000 in sales. She's doing even better now. In fact, she did a second video saying now we've got some customized words available. That was watched by another 70 or 80,000 people as well. So my big lesson from this story from this young lady, Meg in Florida, if a young lady like her with literally no money to her name, she literally had $12 to her name. If she can start a brand new business and make $33,000 in her first 2 months with a simple little idea like that, isn't it possible that you and I, who have a lot more business wisdom and a lot more business experience, can do a lot better than we might be doing right now? Is that possible? I think it is. And let's look at some ideas and how we can do a lot better. If you want to make more money quickly in many businesses, try using a PPO. What's a PPO? Well, a PPO stands for a premium price option. It just means you give your people, your clients, 2 choices when they're buying from you. Let me give you an example. I had my laptop break down a few years ago, and I decided, look, I needed it fixed because I'm using my laptop all the time. So I took it down to a local computer repair firm, and they said, thank you for that. You got 2 choices in terms of having your laptop repaired. The regular service, leave it with us. I was there in the morning. We'll have a look at it before 5 o'clock today. We'll then ring you, tell you what's wrong, what it's going to cost to fix, and we should have it ready for you by about 5 o'clock on the next day. That's the first option. That's your regular option. Or if you want the premium service, there's a $50 one-off fee for that, payable now. But if you have the premium service, we will look at this laptop within 60 minutes, within the next hour. We will then phone you after 60 minutes and tell you what's wrong with it, when it could be, what needs doing to fix it, and we should have it repaired by 5 o'clock the same day. So basically I have my choice. I could have the regular service, take 2 days to have my laptop repaired. I could have the premium price service for $50 and have my laptop back the same day. Well, I picked the premium service because I wanted to have my laptop back as soon as possible. And I did some really simple figures on the back of my hand, just thinking about this computer repair firm, Jamie. I figured if they could get 4 people like me each workday, or 20 people a week that paid $50 extra, that's $1,000 extra straight profit every week, or $50,000 a year, just by offering a premium price option. You know what? With a little bit of creative thinking, you can come up with a premium price option for a whole range of products and a whole range of services. It could be something extra that comes with the premium price option. Extra warranty, extra service, extra fast service. Could be extra products, extra value. And if you give people 2 choices of the regular product or the premium price product, or the regular service or the premium price service, guess what? Some of the people will take the premium price option, and you'll make a lot of money with very little effort. Okay, next slide. One of the things I want to recommend to you today is stop losing easy sales. I've got a sales rule of thumb for you. If you are not staying in touch with what we call PFU, positive follow-up, with your clients, your prospects, and your key referral sources, whatever your turnover is per year right now, let's say it's $500,000, you're losing at least 20% of that, another $100,000 of easy sales or easy repeat or referral business by not staying in touch with people. I'll give you a simple example. I used a furniture cleaning firm a few years ago to come into my home and clean up a couple of old lounge suites that I had that I was thinking of throwing out because they very, very comfortable. They got a bit grubby with pets and grandkids and all that kinds of things for a few years, coming and leaving their greasy little fingers and paws all over them. Anyway, this company came in and did an absolutely amazing job, and our 2 lounge suites came up like brand new. I think we paid about $400 for this, which was a heck of a lot cheaper than buying 2 new lounge suites. I thought, wow, that's fantastic. A couple of months later, I was telling my friend about what had happened with my lounge suite. He said, boy, that sounds great. Who was this firm? He said, I said, I know what? I can't remember. I can't remember who they were. I literally could not remember. And a year later, they sent me a letter asking, the same firm, I couldn't work out who they were, so I couldn't give them any referral business. A year later, they sent me a letter saying, by the way, Mr. McGregor, we cleaned your furniture a year ago. Would you like to use our services again? I did. And at that point, I gave them 5 referrals. But I could easily have given them half a dozen referrals during the year. I bet 100 other customers could have done the same thing. They were losing tens of thousands of dollars of sales. So how do you use positive follow-up? Well, one way, just send people that buy from you a small gift. Here's a great example. It's an appliance store I've heard about from 5 different people that I know here in Auckland. In fact, I heard about this company quite a few years ago. And what this company does, a big appliance store, they will send out to you a beautiful little plant, lovely little plant with a lovely little personal letter about 3 weeks after you buy an appliance. This is couriered out to you. The letter says, thank you very much for buying a TV or a stove or a fridge, whatever the appliance was. We really appreciate it. Thought you might enjoy this lovely little plant with our compliments. And you know what? People love this little unexpected gift, this pop plant, if you like, comes out to them. And I actually caught up one time on a seminar that I was running on sales training with a salesperson who actually told me he worked for this particular appliance company. He said, you know what, Graham? This plant that we send out, it costs us about $10. We have a special arrangement with a local florist, a local garden centre and the local courier company. It costs us about $10 a customer to do that. And we get hundreds of referral sales and hundreds of repeat sales every single month just by sending out this unexpected gift. A great little way of, if you like, using PFU or positive follow-up. And there are hundreds of different ways to use positive follow-up. If you don't use it, you're easily losing 20% of your sales each year. In other words, you can have a 20% increase in sales just by using positive follow-up on a regular basis. So how could you use positive follow-up in your business? Next slide. One of the things we want to do in business, we've all got a lot of competitors. We want to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. We want to get noticed. And how do we do that without spending a lot of money? I've got a great example of how to do that using what we call an MN strategy, which is a memorable nickname. A great example of this is the Hugging Butcher. This is quite an old story. About 17 years ago in the States, there was a butcher shop in a little mall. They weren't doing very well. They had a major problem. The car park for their butcher shop was being torn up and redone. They're going to be without a car park for 6 months. No car park, no customers, no sales. What the heck are they going to do? How are they going to get customers in? Anyway, there's a husband and wife that own the butcher shop. The wife went to a marketing conference, met with a marketing genius by the name of Ted Nicholas, very, very clever man, and she told him about her problem. And Ted said, okay, tell me a bit about your business. And it turned out that her husband is quite a tall man. He's very friendly, very gregarious, very jovial, and he loves to hug people. So that's just who he is. So Ted said to this lady, he said, look, what I want you to do is go back to your store, put up a sign, call yourself the Hugging Butcher. Do a couple of things on social media as well, and just promote your business as the Hugging Butcher. And have your husband greet everyone that comes into the store, man, woman, or child, with a big hug. And you know what? That worked like crazy. Within a few weeks, all these people wanted to come into the Hugging Butcher, get a hug, along with their meat. Their sales went through the roof. They're able to put their prices up and up and up and up again. They became famous in the local area. And a couple of years later, they sold their butcher store, the Hugging Butcher, for a huge sum of money. And the thing is, most of us in business can have a memorable nickname very easily. Just pick a word that describes some part of what you do and use it in your name. You still keep your business name, so you still might be E3 Business Accountants, but you could be E3 Business Accountants, the Clever Accountants, or you might be the plumber, XYZ Plumbers. You are now the Punctual Plumbers. You know, most people hate tradespeople because they don't like the fact that most of them don't turn up on time. If you called yourself XYZ Plumbers, the Punctual Plumbers, you know what? You stand out because of your memorable nickname. And a memorable nickname is a really simple way to get a lot of positive attention and stand out from all your competitors. Worth trying. Next slide. How do you get a lot of people into your business if you have a retail business, or contacting your business if you don't have a retail business? Again, particularly if you don't have a lot of money. Well, use an FC strategy. What's FC? Fun competition. I heard about a hardware store a few years ago who did something very low tech. It was a fun competition. They put up a sign in their hardware store that said $50 of free hardware. That was the big headline. I think it cost them about $50 from memory. And in the print below the headline, it said, come into our hardware store. If we don't professionally greet and welcome you in within 20 seconds, we will give you $50 of hardware of your choice free. Now, that was a bit of fun. People would be walking by, seeing the sign, $50 of free hardware. If they don't greet me within 20 seconds, I think I'll go in and see if I get some free hardware. They went in, they had a buzzer and bell on the door. They had it set up so they went off every time someone came in through the door. And one of the salespeople in the store would then excuse themselves if they're serving customers and say, just excuse me a moment, madam, for 5 seconds, and walk over and welcome somebody into the store. Madam, sir, thank you for coming in. Great to see you. I'm tied up with a client. Look around. We'll talk to you shortly. So they never actually had to give away any free hardware, but they had thousands and thousands of people come into the store. Now, a free competition, there are thousands of free competitions you could run, or fun competitions. Here's a very simple one. Do a bad makeover contest. In other words, you get people to submit photos before and after of a really bad makeover that they've had. It could be a hairdo that went horribly wrong, a beauty therapy treatment that didn't go the way they planned. It could be a home renovation job. They were doing it themselves and it didn't work out that well. This is what happened. And the worst makeover, the worst bad makeover experience, you're going to give these people a prize. It's going to be a free hairdo. It's going to be a free beauty therapy treatment. It's going to be some free services to help rectify their mistake. You know what? You'll get all sorts of people involved. In fact, I saw a really interesting example of this related, if you like, a few months ago in the paper. A lady in the UK was talking about spray painting a wardrobe door in her bedroom to spruce it up, make it look better. And the door had slats in it. And unfortunately, her husband had all his expensive Italian suits and ties and shirts hanging up in the wardrobe at the time that she spray painted the door on the outside, and she had neglected to actually take the clothes out or screen off behind the slats. So she showed a picture on this newspaper article. This is what happens when you're too lazy to clean out your wardrobe before you spray paint your wardrobe door. And there are all these beautiful suits with horizontal paint marks right across them. It's quite, you know what I noticed in that particular story? Something like 500,000 people had watched or viewed those particular photographs, and get a lot of attention very quickly by having a fun contest. I recall there was a cereal company that was new into the market a few years ago here in New Zealand. They had a product placement contest where you could actually take photos of their cereal packages in unusual places. So people would take these cereal packages all around the world. They're on top of the Eiffel Tower, top of the pyramids. They had them sailing down the Amazon River. There was my Hubbard cereal packet, if you like. And they published a lot of these photos in their magazine and their little newsletter that went out on their cereal packages. Got all kinds of attention, gave away some prizes, got a lot of buzz, and got a lot of people talking about their cereal. So what sort of fun contest could you run in your business to get a lot of attention and get a lot of people contacting your business? Okay, next slide. This is a really interesting one, Jamie. You think we and I were discussing it the other day. It's the vasectomy marketing lesson. Makes you a bit nervous just thinking about it, particularly men. But I had a vasectomy about 20 years ago or 25 years ago.
And you still remember it.
I still remember it. It was a painless experience. I'm pleased to say I was out like a light at the time. But before I had the actual procedure, I did ask the surgeon who was doing the procedure, by the way, how many of these vasectomies have you done? I wanted to make sure I was dealing with someone who was very good at it. No, I didn't want a beginner at all. No, I didn't want to hear whether you're the second one, Graham, or the first one. Anyway, he told me I've done over 5,000 of these vasectomies. So 5,000 vasectomies, that's a lot. And he told me, he said, Graham, I've never had a problem with any of them. I said, well, that's great. That's for me. So I had my vasectomy. I still remember that number, 5,000 vasectomies, if you like, 20, 25 years later. And the key here is use an unusual number in your business when you're marketing it. Here's a great example of an unusual number. You might recall, in fact, I think you did recall, there's a local cafe. It was a small cafe called Viv's Kitchen in a very small town in the Manawatu here in New Zealand, in a place I'd never heard of before. And they make this delicious dessert called, what do they call? They're called cream horns. These are the owners of the business with this dessert, if you like. And in this story, there's a story in the newspaper online at the time. It said they were just about to sell their 200,000th. In other words, they sold 200,000 of these cream horns. You know what happened with that unusual number, Jamie? You might recall. They actually not only got on the newspaper, they got on a whole bunch of magazines, they got on a bunch of newspapers. They also made national television. I think from memory it was on 7 Chart.
I remember seeing them, yes.
Absolutely, by sharing an unusual number. So think about an unusual number that you could share related to your business. Let's say you're a carpet layer, just as an example. Well, over the last 10 years, how much carpet have you laid? You might have laid 1 million miles of carpet. Enough carpet to go around the world 3 times. That's an unusual number. And you know what? It gets your business noticed and it costs you no money. Look at that. Unusual number, 200,000. They got massive media exposure, and also on national TV, all at no charge. Very interesting. What unusual number could you share related to your business? Right. Here's a great example, one of my favorite marketing stories. How do you get 5 million people watching your product in action by spending $50? Oh, well, that's what Tom Dixon did. He is the owner of a manufacturing firm in the States, and they make industrial blenders. Now, he wanted to really promote these blenders a few years ago, but he didn't have much money, so he decided to do something a little bit different. He decided to make a real fun video related to his product. So he put on a white coat. He dressed himself up as a mad doctor, a mad scientist, if you like. He got his blender out, and he said, okay, what we're going to do today, we are going to blend, or see if we can blend, unusual common objects. So the very first video that he produced, he took a bag of glass marbles and he poured them into his blender and he said, okay, will it blend? Then he turned his machine on. You know what? The machine, his blenders are very, very powerful. They turn those glass marbles into a pile of dust. Then he decided to do a second video where he blended an iPad. Actually put an iPad into his blender. You might have smashed it up with a hammer to start with just to make it fit. Then he would blend a golf stick or blend a broomstick, or he'd blend iPhone. He'd blend all these interesting things. You know what? Their very first video that he produced around the marbles, 5 million people watched. In fact, if you go to willitblend.com, you can see several dozen of these crazy videos, and he got literally tens and tens of millions of people watching these videos, and guess what? The sales of his blenders went through the roof, all by using a fun product demo video. Next slide.
You've given me a good idea, Graham. Maybe we could do that with our clients' tax returns. When they have a tax bill, we put it through the blender. We say, we fix your tax bill for you.
What a good idea. Another way you can use a video, very, very simple idea that anyone in business can do. Find a common problem that people have. It doesn't even have to be directly related to your business, and produce a short video that shows you how to solve that problem. And then just promote your video, your business in the video. Here's a great example. A few years ago, I was helping my father-in-law with his washing, and I was trying to fold his fitted sheet. And we were both complaining, you know what? It's really hard to fold a fitted sheet so it's neat and tidy. It's always a big, clumpy mess. So I did a Google search. Okay, how do you fold a fitted sheet? A video came up. In fact, a whole bunch of videos came up. The first video had actually been watched by 21 million people over a 10-year period. It was put up 10 years ago by that. And the very start of the video, what does it say? This video on how to fold a fitted sheet is brought to you by a company called livingwithadime.com, which is all about frugal living. There they were promoting their business at the start of the video, and 21 million people have watched that video already. In fact, I saw another dozen videos there. Quite a few of them had well over 1 million, 2 million, 3 million views. There was even a video done by a man showing how to fold a fitted sheet, which I think it attracted something like 7 million views as well. So all you do, find a common problem that people have. I read the other day, or saw the other day, a lady did a little TikTok video for about 25 seconds and says, this is how you stop a cut avocado going brown. And she'd done a bit of research on the internet to find out how to solve this. What you do, apparently, is you put your cut avocado upside down in a small plastic container and fill it with water. Next day, take it out, blot it down with a little bit of some paper towels, and it looks as good as new for a couple of days. 80,000 people watched that video in the first 3 days, and there's something like 1,000 comments saying, what an amazing tip, you have saved my life. Now, she didn't promote a business at the time, it was just a personal video, but it was a great example. If you can come up with a video that solves a common problem, promote your business in it, you know what? You can get thousands, tens of thousands, and possibly even millions of people to watch it for no money at all. What a really interesting way to promote your business. Okay, next slide. We're going to be talking about change. Change actually happens all the time. And before we finish the webinar, let's see if we can answer a couple of quick questions for our viewers.
I just noted a couple of comments that Beth mentioned, the hugging butcher, the good old days when you could imagine going out doing roll.
Can't do that probably in COVID today, but it's
for a hug.
That's right.
The pre-COVID days. But I think what your suggestions do is spark the thoughts that were in our mind here to develop ideas, and everything you've mentioned is so low cost and it's so inspiring. One of the questions have just got in. Do you want a question that we just got in?
Sure, fire away.
It says, I run a service-based business where I provide, along with my 5 employees, one-on-one home-based services. What is the best way for me to get referrals?
Well, cut 2 ways through that. First of all, just ask a good referral question. I found this many years ago when I was selling sales training. I got 127 referrals in 1 month from this one question. I would just used to say to sales managers, hey, every meeting I had, I was selling sales training, having a chat to them, whether they bought or not, I would say to them at the end, hi, Jamie, thanks for your time. Can you do me a small favor? Who are 2 or 3 other sales managers you know who might be open to some new ideas to improve sales for their sales team? Who would you suggest I talk to? Then I'd stay silent, pull out a pen, notebook, and wait for them to say something. And what I found, if I kept it very low-key like that, who are 2 or 3 sales managers you know who might be open to increasing sales, who would you suggest I talk to? They would usually give me the lower number, 2 people. I then changed it a few months later. I decided to ask for 7 or 8. There were 7 or 8 sales managers, you know. That month, I got 129 referrals in 1 month. So use that same question, if you like, but just relate it for your business. Let's say you're a service-based business. You could be a painter coming in and doing painting for people. So you say, hey, thanks for your time today. Really enjoy it. By the way, who are 2 or 3 friends you have who might like some ideas on how to hire a really good painter? We've put together a little checklist here that we'd like to send them, no charge, on how to hire a really good painter. So something simple like that. And also, if you stay in touch and use positive follow-up with your clients as well. If you stay in touch and add value, and they hear from you at least every month with something that adds value, that makes it really easy for them to give you a lot of referrals. The old saying is so true, Jamie, out of sight, out of mind. Remember my furniture cleaning firm? I didn't hear from them for a year, so I couldn't give them referrals because I'd forgotten about them. You've got to be in touch to get referrals.
No, that's good. Interesting question in from Tracy here, mentioning the necklace scenario. How will it work in New Zealand with a much smaller population? Would it still work? I guess
who would
as an American example.
Yeah, well, it's just an example. I chose there was the fact I chose it for the reason that someone started a business with $12, unemployed, did something a little bit different, and took a punt, if you like, had a risk, tried something. Not everything you try will necessarily work. So I'm a big fan of trying a lot of different things over the years, if you like, to find some that do. That may or may not work in New Zealand. It could well work very well. Give it a go. Maybe give it a catchy name. Go and buy a few necklaces, put them up online, see what works, see what doesn't. And you might be able to adapt an idea that you see offshore to your local environment as well. In fact, a lot of businesses have done very well by seeing something that's popular in one country and then just introducing it to their country as well, maybe with a local flavor of some sort. So I'm not sure that answers the question, but just if you can try something and it's low cost and low risk, I would recommend trying it. To answer
Thank
that
you,
question.
Graham. Here's a challenging question, and from Hennick. Hope I've pronounced that word correctly. The question is how to motivate salespeople. Now, there's a challenging one.
Yeah, well, I used to sell sales training for about 10 years. I sold sales training seminars to salespeople. So I had a lot of chances to meet salespeople. And probably one of the best ways to motivate salespeople is to, first of all, you want to hire good people who are enthusiastic to start with. That's probably the starting point. And one question that I got every sales manager that I knew to ask when they were hiring salespeople was this: tell me about your favorite hobbies. Tell me about your favorite hobbies, just in the hiring process. And if the person didn't get excited about their favorite hobbies in the sales training, in the sales interview, don't hire them, because they're not going to get enthusiastic about your product or service either. The other thing about your product or service is this: if you want to get your salespeople motivated and excited, just click some positive testimonials from your customers. And what you do is you just ring up half a dozen of your local customers or your best customers who love you and just say, look, what do you really like about our product or service? What are some of the benefits you've enjoyed? Why would you recommend our product or service to other people that you know? Write down what they tell you, get their permission to use it, and then show those testimonials to all your salespeople. You know what? When your salespeople read 5 or 10 really positive testimonials from customers, boy, we're doing a good job. We're selling something really good. And what I noticed in selling sales training and talking to tens of thousands of salespeople over the years is that often a new salesperson would come in that was full of enthusiasm, no product knowledge, full of enthusiasm, and they go out there and make all these sales because they were so enthusiastic. I used to sell a bartering system on one of my first sales jobs where you swap goods and services and keep track of it with a little ledger of some sort as a way to improve sales and get new customers. I thought the concept was fantastic. And I spoke then about 3 times faster than I speak now, which is still quite fast. So I went out, I saw 3 people, I was given 3 referrals by my boss at the time, saw them all. They all signed up, they all paid $500 or $1,000 to be part of this bartering service. And every one of those sales rang my boss an hour or 2 later and said, look, Graham was just in to see us. He was telling us about this bartering system. We paid some money. It sounded great, but what did we buy again? They bought my enthusiasm. They'd bought my enthusiasm. So if you think about it, one of the ways to motivate your salespeople, look, get them to come up with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 reasons why your product or service is so wonderful for your clients. And when you think about that, also, if you want to motivate salespeople, get them to, every time they do a sales presentation, get them to, before they do a sales presentation of any sort, to think about the last good sale they made and how it made them feel. And then they go into the sales meeting with that feeling of confidence, optimism, and the feeling of just made a sale. And the customers will pick up that enthusiasm. Hopefully that helps in some way.
That's very insightful. Thank you, Graham, and some practical knowledge and experience that you've personally had. Jackie sent in a question here. I work in healthcare. Any tips for encouraging people to purchase services to improve their own health and well-being? Very topical subject amongst the politicians at the moment. So how can you help, Jackie? What would you say?
Yeah, well, one of the things you want to do around health is talk about it. Health means different things to different people. Let's say someone wants to lose weight, for example, a health topic. Some people want to lose weight for the simple reason they've got their 20th high school reunion coming up in a couple of months' time, and they want to go along and look great to all their old mates from school. Someone else might want to lose weight. It could be a father, perhaps. He's really overweight at the moment. He might just want to be able to have more energy to go and play with his young children. Someone else might want health, just literally for health reasons. They had their father or their mother or a couple of friends had real bad health complications from being overweight. They don't want those things to happen to them. So it's a worry thing they want to sort out. So one of the things around health, you want to ask some questions, some really questions, and find out what would actually motivate this person to take action on a health-related topic. And what's their goal? I always think of it as the ABC system of selling. A is where you are right now. C is where you want to be. And B is the product or service that will help you get from A to B. In other words, there has to be a gap between A and C. If there's no gap, no point in doing a sales presentation. So you do it by asking questions. It reminds me, I went to see the doctor years ago. I come down with a very bad virus or something. I had massive chronic dysentery and vomiting and all kinds of other unpleasant things going
Thanks,
on.
Graham.
Anyway, I went and saw the doctor and he said, Graham, tell me about your condition. How long has it been going on? What's been happening? What have you done? What haven't you done? Okay. He asked me a whole bunch of questions. He said, well, Graham, based on what you've told me, I think you've got Campylobacter poisoning or something similar. And what you need is to take this, this, and this. It'll be right in a few days. Take this medicine or take this prescription or do whatever he told me to do at the time. And that was the process. He was like a doctor, the doctor process. So take the same process when you're selling health services or anything else. Ask questions, do a diagnosis, find out what the problem was, and then say, well, based on what you've told me, I recommend you do this and this and this. What the doctor didn't do when I walked in to see him, he didn't say, oh, by the way, Graham, glad to see you. We've got a fantastic special today on indigestion medicine. He didn't say that. He asked questions first and did a diagnosis. So I suggest you do the same thing in your business as well. We're probably going to pretty well run out of questions right now, but what I will do, I will answer in writing every one of the questions that have come in to the webinar. We'll do that within the next 48 hours and get that back up to you. I want to talk now just about two more things that can be helpful for you. First thing, just a reminder, change is happening every day, every week, every month, every year. All that really means there are new opportunities to handle that change every day, every week, every month, every year. And there's two resources I want to tell you, both free of charge, that I do invite you to take advantage of on the next slide. The first resource is a 119-page marketing guide. It might even be longer than that, with over 49 different strategies to boost sales in times of massive change. Just go to www.simplemarketing.com, put in your name, put in your email address, and you can get a free copy of that with my compliments. Nothing to buy, with my compliments. Also, if you have any questions on anything we've covered in this webinar, or you have a sales or marketing question of any sort, shoot me an email to graham@simplemarketinganswers.com. I will personally answer the question for you within 24 hours, no charge, with my compliments. So,
Excellent. Thank you, Graham. Now, before we sign off, there's one recurring question that comes through, and I've had a lot of prior questions come in before the webinar today, and it's very typical of everyone in business. Our industry is driven by fierce price competition. Customers seem to choose the lowest price option with little regard to support and service. My margins are so skinny that I really break even. I really do need to increase my prices to survive. And this is the key question. How can I increase my prices to survive without losing customers?
well, there's 3 or 4 answers to this question. First of all, one option is to change who you sell to. I was interviewing a very interesting guy who runs a multimedia company in the States. They do things like video production and website design and so forth. And he said, Graham, in my business, video production, someone can come in with an iPhone camera and charge $500 to shoot a video for a company. He said, we charge between $20,000 and $50,000 to shoot that same video. Well, how can we do that? Well, first of all, we only sell to businesses who are in the Fortune 500. That's it. People who are going to appreciate a really high class video production. We don't sell to the average Joe Blow who runs a business because they're not in the market for something like that there. So just choosing who you sell to could make it a lot easier for you to get higher prices. Secondly, look at how you package what you sell. In fact, you don't even have to package what you sell differently. You might just do different things to get new customers into your business. One of my colleagues in San Diego told me an interesting story about a local coffee shop that he saw set up. They set the coffee shop up in San Diego, beautiful range of coffee. Everything was right in the cafe. Virtually nobody came in. And they just heard that a Starbucks coffee shop was going to open directly opposite them in about 3 months' time. Huge competitor coming in, national chain, and they're getting no customers at all right now. So what the heck are they going to do? Well, the worst thing they could do is drop their prices, because that's a lose-lose situation. They're making no money now. They're going to make even less money. He did a quick bit of research, the owner of this cafe. He discovered that he got a lot of local surfers coming in from time to have coffee. Surfers, okay. San Diego, warm climate. So he said, okay, what can I do to get these surfers in? Here's what I'll do. What do surfers use? Surfers use something called surfers wax, which is waxing their surfboard. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of surfers wax. I'm going to offer it to these surfers at cost price. Whatever I pay for it wholesale, they can have it at cost price. Well, word got out. Hey, by the way, you can go buy your surf wax, cost price, not retail. And suddenly dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of surfers started coming into his cafe. Word got around. He's super busy. Also, once he got super busy, other people driving past saw he was busy and they came in as well. It's like the old restaurant. If you see nobody in a restaurant, you think, well, that's no good. They're empty on a Friday night. I don't think I'll go there. If it's full, you want to go there. So sometimes something as simple as finding something popular that will appeal to your target market, offer that to get them to contact or use your business. That was a really interesting strategy. And this coffee shop has done extremely well year after year after year by doing something as simple as cost price surfers wax for the local surfing community on that basis there. The other thing with prices, we had that premium price option, the regular price option. So look at offering other packages and also package what you sell. I used to be a professional speaker many years ago. When I first got started, I charged $300 to come and give a 1-hour sales presentation on selling. I worked really hard. I made a lot of sales, but I wasn't making much money. So I talked to someone called Des, who's one of the best sales training speakers in the country. I said, Des, how can I make more money? He said, Graham, what are you charging? $300. He said, too cheap. Make it $600. Actually, make it $750. Secondly, he said, what do you call your talks? I said, it's a talk on sales training. He said, no. Give it a catchy title. 7 ways to get an unfair business advantage in your business. There's a catchy title. Thirdly, never speak for an hour. Always speak for 45 minutes or 75 minutes. Never an hour. That way they can't work out what your hourly rate is. Next thing I want you to do, Graham, he said, give us some handouts with the talk that you're giving. It's not a talk now, it's a seminar. You're giving a seminar. You're giving a 75-minute seminar on 7 ways to get an unfair advantage in your business with handout material, resources that you're going to give at the same time. Wow, that was pretty simple to do. You know what? I went out and made $15,000 of extra sales in the next 6 weeks just using his ideas. And suddenly I was charging $750, not $300. So I just packaged it slightly differently. Changed what I was doing. So then think about this. Let me give you an example. Right now, you can buy a website from a lot of different companies for as little as $400. A fully functioning website, $400. There's a company I know in the States called Paper Street who does the same thing. They will sell you a website. Their websites start at $25,000 and go to $100,000. And guess what? They've got 1,000 customers who have bought websites from them. 1,000 customers at $25,000 to $100,000 each. When you can buy a website for $400. What do? Well, the owner of the company is a lawyer. He works exclusively, 99% of his business is legal firms. He has staff that are lawyers. They do all the social media marketing for these legal companies as well. He specialized. Here he is charging $25,000 to $100,000 for a website that you and I can go down the road and buy for $400. So there's always a price range for any product, any service. And sometimes I recall meeting Dan Kennedy, direct marketing legend Dan Kennedy, about 30 years ago in Phoenix, Arizona. He said, Graham, if you want to charge a lot of money for something, the first thing you've got to do is practice this. Sit down at your desk and say, the price is $25,000 or $50,000 for this particular service, and keep a straight face and get comfortable saying it, and then shut up. You got to get comfortable charging more money. You made the point yourself. The goal in business is to stay in business and do well. If you stay in business and do well, you pay a lot of tax, which supports a lot of people. You support your customers and you support your staff. You have a duty to make money, which means you need to have good profit margins. And most of us in business, we make the mistake. We think we think people buy on price, but the reality is it's way, way, way down the list. Think about this. Think about all the things you've bought yourself in the last 2 months. Clothes, appliances, services. Did you buy the cheapest price for everything? I bet you very rarely bought the cheapest price for anything. Other factors came into play. Anyway, so that's probably all we have time for now.
Graham, look, I could sit here for another hour or two, and I think a lot of our audience could as well. What I really enjoy about hearing you is that you're talking about real life examples, not just made up ideas. You're talking about how someone somewhere in the world applied this technique or strategy or tactic, and they are just very engaging. And I'm sitting here and my mind is racing already about things that we could do at E3, and also things that we can share with all our clients as well, because often they're coming to us and saying, Jamie, I believe the warehouse is moving in down the road. What do you think? What's the future of my business? Do I refund it? Do I go to the bank? What do I think? What we think we need to do? So these stories are forever ongoing. They're endless, and I love the way you convey it. Thank you very much for your time, Graham. All those questions that have come in that remain unanswered, we'll package all those up. Graham will work through them, and we'll send them out via email to all of you within the next few days. So thank you for joining us today, and a special thank you for Graham. You are absolutely inspiring, and I love having you with us. Thank you, Graham.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.